Man, if you've been around Broward County, Florida, you probably know a thing about the eye patch rapper, aka googly-eyed assassin GLIZZY. Bro definitely went through some traumatic type shit after being popped in the face in 2019, but somehow, someway, he was able to grow from that, and after being posted on every single blog and the nightly news, began a promising rap career. Unfortunately, fast forward several years later, and it's looking like bro crashed all the way out, and is currently facing a murder charge that will probably have his whole life cooked from this point forward.
Kristan Moore, Kyle Robinson, and Devontae Lowe were all arrested over the weekend, each charged with first-degree murder and 3 counts of attempted first-degree murder.
Broward Sheriff Department was also so petty, they even added a seatbelt violation to go alongside it, bruh. I can't even believe this. Honestly though, this ongoing beef within Broward that has caused all this might be one of the craziest beefs that I've ever covered in this channel, man. Because somehow, pretty much everyone has been taking L's left and right. And it has some of the biggest rappers in the world somehow involved, man. We gotta get into this crazy crash out situation right now, man. Khia City versus 1800 block right now in Broward County, Florida, because the beef is active AF, man. We finna get into this right now, but before we do, I'm gonna need y'all to do something for me. Y'all boys like, comment, subscribe. We finna run in this video, man. Make sure you hit that merch link in the description at staysaferoad.com. Man, tap into that notification bell so whenever I post, y'all turn in right away, man. We finna get into this right now, man. Chapter 1, Khia City versus 1800. Man, when people think of beefs that have been ongoing within the Florida scene, I feel like the beef within Broward County oftentimes gets overlooked. People be hyper fixating on stuff that goes on in Jacksonville, sometimes Miami, but they don't really pay attention to what's going on in Broward. However, this whole situation that caused GLIZZY to crash out like no other is wild. This entire situation seems to be contained in the Pompano Beach section of Broward County. This is where 2 rival gangs have basically been going crazy for a number of years. And somehow GLIZZY apparently found himself in the middle of this ongoing war when he allegedly got caught up being an alleged broad daylight shooter that ended with a young teen who was 16 years old getting murked. We will get into that incident further in the video. For now though, we gotta explain the ongoing situation between these 3 cliques in the area that has the federal government even worried, with current cases that basically are going on getting picked up by the feds apparently. Really, everything kind of boils down to a fried beef between 3 gangs, 2 of which clicked up, between GYG, 1800, and 2736. 1800 is probably the most recognizable of these 3. They're a group based out of the Golden Acres area of Pompano Beach. Yeah, they make it sound nice, you know, calling it Golden Acres. That's how stuff be in Florida. It sounds like it's a retirement community. However, this area is far from that. This infamous hood is home to the 128th most listened to artist on the planet, Kodak Black. They have close ties with Haitian Zoes who have infamously beefed with other black gangs like the Bloods in prison and in the streets. On the other hand, in the same section of Broward, there's another clique from the Collier City area. They call themselves Khia City, and that's where GLIZZY reps. They're a blood gang tied in the 2736 blood set. At the same time, we got GYG, a gang from the Crosstown section of Broward that has been on the come up with a couple of rappers that have really been making, you know, waves, but became universally known throughout the state and nationally when 3 of its members got caught up in broad daylight in the shooting that we'll get into later. The story of how everything got to this point is pretty crazy, and the beef between 1800 and Khia City was really active several years ago, but eventually cooled down when older people in these groups like Kodak intervened. Unfortunately, the younger members have been pretty much crashing out, and it all kind of dates back several years. And it became pretty much national news with a tragic shooting on a young kid, the shooting of GLIZZY.
Incoming rapper speaking out, talking to us 2 years after he was shot in the head in Pompano Beach.
He tells Local 10 that now is the time to share his life-changing story. GLIZZY was 16 years old when he was shot outside a convenience store a few miles away from where I'm standing.
The bullet like grazed in, it went in, but it went in like through an angle. That's why I didn't never die.
It seems that at one point, younger members of 1800, a clique specifically from that area called TMM, were once at least civil with members of Khia City. However, everything took a turn for the worse in 2019. GLIZZY sort of made a name for himself around that time with his close relationship with XXXTentacion and basically rapping on the come up. At the same time, it was rumored that he had some type of falling out with a member of TMM named Lil Maul, or one of the group's cliques or people within that clique basically had a falling out with them. Apparently, some fights happened after this, but nothing too serious. But then in June 2019, everything took a turn to the worse. GLIZZY was just posted up in the Broward area trying to hit a local convenience store. The trio of him, his brother, and another friend stopped at the 1700 block of Dr. Martin Luther King Boulevard, which coincidentally is the same area where that other shooting, which we'll get into later, happened. Him and his brother were posted up in the car, waiting for a friend to exit the store. Their friend, while inside the store, got into a verbal altercation with another group before getting back in the car, and right as they pulled off, mayhem ensued. Someone began spraying up the car in a hail of bullets. In a panic, they sped off and got into a car accident on the way to the hospital. After they crashed, the occupants noted that GLIZZY had gotten hit with what looked like a graze and was knocked out. That's when his brother picked him up and carried him down I-95. While getting aired out, a bullet had basically hit GLIZZY's skull, shattered the bone around his eye. He was able to survive the shooting and actually went viral because of it. The shooting had a pretty profound effect on GLIZZY because he came back and started dropping mad fire music. This was surprisingly his peak in popularity and influence in the Broward County area, with him being featured on the news and everything, and basically went crazy. At the same time after this, the shooter in the situation, Lil Maul, would get convicted of the shooting. While things within the group apparently cooled down for a couple of years after this incident due to the older members intervening, it seems that things have started back up, which leads us to a crazy broad daylight retaliation that changed everyone's life involved. Following the incident, there was a period of relative peace again. The dissing didn't stop between the younger members, basically dissing online and in songs, but nothing really major went down for a number of years. However, things really went too far online when the dissing from a member of the 1800 block took the beef to a disrespectful level. JR, a member from the 1800 area, went viral in Broward for posting a video on Triller of a fallen Lil Mitch, who was a GYG member, in his casket on Triller. Bruh, I swear you cannot make this up. It's insane to even take it to that level in the first place. But it was even more insane because the kid that was killed was not killed by any of the people in 1800. He apparently was killed trying to rob someone and ended up getting gunned down in self-defense. Needless to say, apparently, but GYG members obviously didn't take too kindly to this. GLIZZY, on the other hand, was apparently clicked up with members of GYG at the same time, which pretty much set the stage for a crash out incident that we know of today. The actual shooting that got GLIZZY caught up in this case.
In the case, arrests have been made after a shooting that killed a teen and injured several others. Local 10 Sanella Sabovic joining us live from Pompano Beach with the latest on this. Sanella.
Louis, BSO homicide detectives making this big bust over the weekend, arresting 3 men they say are responsible for shooting and killing a 16-year-old boy and injuring 3 others. It happened a little more than 2 weeks ago at this Pompano Beach strip mall. Kristan Moore, Kyle Robinson, and Devontae Lowe were all arrested over the weekend.
Around 5 p.m. on March 26th of this year, a group of men and a couple teens were posted outside of a corner store in the 1800 block of Martin Luther King. However, just after 5 p.m., several cars pulled up with multiple men jumping out and began spraying the premises. When the dust cleared, several people were injured, while one of the people was hit and fatally wounded, and he was none other than JR, who had been gunned down, while 3 other men were injured. Surveillance video captured the whole incident, but it was pretty crazy with multiple cars coming from different angles. It was like wild, like plotted out. But honestly, the fact that GLIZZY even got caught up by police for being in this is crazy. And there's many people wondering how that could even happen, which we'll really talk about right now in the aftermath. Several days after this incident, GLIZZY ended up getting booked for this shooting along with 4 other members of GYG. It's crazy because someone with the amount of exposure that GLIZZY had after his first shooting, you think he would change his life. Especially after being featured on the news saying that he was saved by a miracle. There probably is more to the story than we would know of, especially since he was basically caught being associated with a whole other gang than what he was in. Many people theorized that it could be a misunderstanding, and honestly, I really wouldn't be surprised if it was. It could honestly be cops thinking he was linked to it it without having any hardcore evidence besides the fact that things were readily available online showing that they were beefing. At the same time, police could have more evidence than is really available to the public and could really be more behind the scenes in this situation. Several months ago, one of his homies ended up getting shot and murked in a robbery outside a club. Nothing really points to it being a gang related situation, but judging by how GLIZZY is getting accused of this, you never really know. Many people have felt that someone was talking to the police due to the fact that the suspects got caught from the mission relatively quickly. This could be the case, but at the same time, due to the fact that this is allegedly getting picked up by the federal government, there is definitely a lot more resources at the investigators' disposal, and most likely some overwhelming amount of evidence that shows that there could be something going on with all these people, especially since the federal government usually has a higher conviction rate compared to state governments. All this is pretty disappointing, honestly. Black men killing black men is pretty much wild, but this is pretty much just killing each other for nothing. It's not for money, it's not for turf, it seems to be just crashing out for the sake of crashing out. While some of these other GYG members crashed out with nothing to really live for, we got people like GLIZZY who had a lot more to live for and stay free for, pissing it all down the drain if he had something to do with this. Honestly, it just feels like dudes either have no common sense or are conditioned by the system to think crashing out is a normal activity, or just, you know, they could have just been around the wrong people that thought that. I think it could be a combination of all three. However, I feel like the most important thing that contributed to this was definitely just being around the wrong people, you know, basically clicking up with a group that doesn't really, you know, value anything like their own lives is just going to get you caught up in the worst way in the long run. And there's no winners or losers in this ongoing war. It's just people dying, other people dying, everyone's running up the score on each other, and everyone's getting locked up. Especially with people, you know, readily giving information away, especially in Florida. You saw what happened in the X situation, so you think that people are not going to give information on a situation like this is honestly wild. But it really just shows the fall from grace, man. People be blowing up on the internet one day in that old era, and then the next day, several years later, they crashing out, killing people on camera, man. And it's just wild that they would take the time to do this in broad daylight. Getting caught up so quickly with so many different angles is honestly not smart. No common sense whatsoever in any of this. It's just sad seeing people throw their lives away just like this. But, you know, these beefs have been going on for years, and it's not really something that's just gonna go away. You can't just expect it to just go away after blood has been shed. It's really just an ongoing situation that's gonna keep going until they all either die out or they're all locked up in jail. But I wouldn't be surprised if there's some type of RICO incident or something that goes on that tries to stop this, because it seems like the bulk of the violence really in the area is caused by situations like this, you know, gun violence that's just completely unavoidable. It really might take older members like Kodak and other people that are really just like loosely involved to really take a step and try to get everyone to chill out, because at the end of the day, it's not really good for business, especially with him who's like a multi-platinum rapper. Not that he has anything to really do with this situation besides just being from the area, but it's like, I don't think that someone that's big would want to have to deal with another group of people that are beefing with him just because of people that, you know, he had nothing to do with. You know, that's like the crazy thing. I wouldn't want to have to look over my shoulder over that. Like, bro probably already has a lot more things to look over his shoulder for, so he doesn't want to have to look over his shoulder for people straight beefing. At the end of the day, hopefully there's some clarity, and hopefully there's some situation that allows these groups to stop terrorizing their neighborhoods, but I wouldn't bet on it, and that's on everything, man. But hey, let me know in the comments what y'all think. If I missed anything, if I went over anything that was wrong, let me know what y'all think, man. Real say shit, you already know what's going on. Like, comment, subscribe, man. Hit that link in the description for the merch, and make sure you tap in and hit that notification bell, man. We're gonna keep running this up, and we're giving you that real news. I see too many YouTubers that be giving out just nothing, man. That's the reason why I started this channel, man. I just had to say this real quick, man. That's crazy, and we're gonna get into it, man. But tap in. Peace.